Hello and welcome back to the Heart Song podcast. I'm Sarah Collin, and I've just realised it's been over 2 months since my last recording. I don't know about you, but this year is getting away from me. I don't know where it's gone, and here we are. It's the 1st of October as I record this today. So what I'm going to propose is that I try and put out a podcast once a month. I think I was aiming for fortnightly prior, but as we can see, that hasn't really gone very well. So let's rethink and try a monthly commitment. And that way I'm hoping I can deliver for you a monthly podcast on a topic of yoga, Ayurveda, sound, all things relative to holistic health and well-being. So that's my plan as we move forward. Today, I'd like to talk about seasonal living and how we can attune our lifestyles to the season. This is something I've been trying to do for a long time. It's like a work in progress. And I think you just take little bits that you can change and you implement them in. And then when you've got those little practices working, you can add another one in until you find when you look back, oh yes, I have made some significant changes and I'm actually living more aligned to the seasons. And to set the scene for this seasonal living theme, I'd like to quote from a beautiful book called Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom by Acharya Shunya. And it says this: Ayurveda recognizes one fundamental truth. The closer we are to nature and her ways, the healthier we will be. The further we wander away from nature, the more we will suffer. Ayurveda recognizes one fundamental truth. The closer we are to nature and her ways, the healthier we will be. The further we wander away from nature, the more we will suffer. So Ayurvedic lifestyle wisdom revitalizes and reconnects us with our own true spirit source on all levels of our being. And I noticed this from a recent 2-week break I took in the first 2 weeks of August into the outback Gascoyne region of Western Australia, going up to Mount Augustus and the Kennedy Range, and then a couple of station stays, and connecting to nature at that lovely elemental level was so nourishing for me on every level of my being. I came back and felt that I'd really been touched by all those elements, especially the element of space, because I just get that beautiful sense of space when you drive away from suburbia, away from built-up areas, and you get out into nature. And it's just magnificent. And the night skies, the absolute beauty in the stars and the Milky Way, and being able to look up and see that beautiful night skyscape is just something very awe-inspiring. So that's a good example of getting back to nature and really feeling it really deeply. 2 weeks living out in nature, and you just get away from all the habits that you drop back into. So when I got home, I really didn't want to drop back into those habits. I wanted to spend a bit longer outside. I didn't want to go back to sitting in front of the TV each evening. All those things that we habitually fall back into. So I want to talk about the seasons. And so as it is spring here in the Southern Hemisphere, we're 1 month into it, let's look at spring and let's sort of talk about, noticing what's going on around you in nature in this season of spring. So what are you noticing? For me, I'm noticing new life as I walk along the estuary, the beautiful families of little ducklings. The birds have gone crazy nesting. They're gathering nesting materials. The beautiful clearer skies, crisp days, longer days, definitely more sunlight, and warmth slowly returning with that sunlight. It's like a thawing of the sun, or as the sun sort of warms us from that long winter hibernation state, and we did have a cold, wet winter this year. The warmth slowly returns, and with it, there's an awakening. There's an awakening of everything around us. And that's what I'm noticing. Because how can you not notice when you're out walking in nature, we're part of nature. We're made up of the same elements that we find in nature. We're made of earth, air, water, fire and ether. And the yogic and Ayurvedic wisdom have given us ways of understanding ourselves in alignment with nature. So if we talk about the koshas, these koshas are layers of our being, the layers that make up who we are. We're not just a physical form, we're multidimensional, energetic beings. And if we have a look at the 5 koshas and start with the Annamaya kosha, which is the dense physical layer that we present, that you can see, touch, feel. It's made up of food. It's made up by what we eat. And then we've got our Pranamaya kosha. That's our level of aliveness, our energy levels, where the prana, how prana rich do you feel? And how well do you manage your prana? Then we've got the Manamaya kosha, that emotional state of being. How do you feel, in your heart space, if you were to go in there? How's your heart feeling? Is it light? Is it open? Is it heavy? Is it a bit closed? Is it a little bit down and sad, or is it uplifted and joyful for something that you just experienced? What's going on in the moment? Manamaya kosha. And then we've got Vijnanamaya kosha, which is our intellect, you could basically say what mood you're carrying around with you in the moment, but also it's much more than that in as far as, this is what we use to discern these other layers and make meaning of them all. So what state of mind? What's your mood at the moment? And then we have Anandamaya kosha, our spiritual connections that take us inward, those moments of stillness, of awe, of wonder, that Anandamaya kosha, and where you get that from. So they're the layers. They're the layers that we talk a lot about, and I talk a lot about in the yoga that I teach, getting people to check in moment by moment with what's going on. And then there's also the doshas. So Ayurveda describes 3 fundamental forces called the doshas. And they're made up of, or they're known as, Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. And they're in constant states of flux in the cosmos that we live in. And they're made up of all 5 elements, and they affect us on every level of our being. They impose a variability in the physiological process of all living beings. So doshas, they drive us, they sustain life and what it takes to remain living and functioning. The doshas bring growth, the impetus for growth is from Pitta. They bring sustenance, Kapha, and ultimately dissolution or death of the cells, Vata. So Vata is primarily air and space. Pitta, primarily fire, some water. Kapha, primarily earth and water. Your constitution is made up of these elements, and we are all unique. So if you wanted to get an idea of what your prakriti or what your doshic constitution was, if you went to an Ayurvedic practitioner, they'd do it through pulse analysis. They'd reach into the deep layers of your pulse and be able to tell you the balance of those 3 doshas within you. What you can also do, there's a lot of good quizzes around, and if you do 2 or 3, you'll get a good idea, if you answer the questions honestly, of where you're sitting. It'll give you a fairly good idea of where you're sitting in regard to your prakriti or the dosha makeup. And the reason I share this is to highlight how the seasons impact on our well-being, because the seasons change. And if we don't learn to change and adapt with them, then we suffer. We go against the flow. So what can you do to balance these layers of being? What can we do to keep our koshas and our doshas in balance? How can we live more in alignment with the seasons? So firstly, by starting to notice, what is it about spring? What is spring showing you? What's it reflecting back to you? Have a look, feel it, sense it. And then to balance these particular layers, if we look back to the physical body, what food have we eaten over the winter months, and how might we best change the way we've eaten over winter to now suit the change of seasons as the days are getting longer and warmer and drier. So it's about what we eat, and it's also about how we eat, where we eat, how we prepare our food. Do we give thanks for the processes that bring this food to our table? So for a spring cleanse, you might look at really doing you might choose to do one day of mung bean soup. That's a great nourishing soup that is a good cleansing option. You might do it for one day, you might do it for 2 or 3 days. But starting off with some soup and lighter food. So maybe swap, if you didn't want to go on a fast or do a specific cleanse, then you might just start swapping out some of these foods. That's just one example. And then if we're looking at our pranic body, practicing breath awareness, some simple deep breathing with full awareness as you watch your breath can really bring you into balance very quickly. Our breath is our greatest tool for effecting change. And I've got a great practice, Sahita Pranayama, which is a fabulous practice to do at each change of season. I would do it 4 times a year, but even if you just chose 2 seasons of the year to do it, that would make a big difference. And the Sahita Pranayama, it's a powerful pranayama practice, and it systematically helps to enhance the prana in each of the 5 organs. So we look at the organs of the lung, liver, stomach, kidney and heart. And the common associations with those, the lung holds grief, liver holds anger, stomach is where we hold our worry, kidneys is where we store fear, and the heart is our joy center. So this practice systematically helps to enhance the prana in each of these 5 organs, and our bodily functions won't work well if the internal prana isn't rich. So if we've got low internal prana, then we're going to not feel at our best. So restoring prana levels helps to restore and enhance our total health. So it's a very valuable practice. Sahita Pranayama is a progressive technique, so we gradually increase every 9 days until we work up to all 5 organs being covered. So we start off with 1 for 9 days and we do a breathing ratio for the lung, and after 9 days of working with that lung ratio, we continue working with the lung ratio, but we add the liver. So then we work through until you're doing all 5 practices once a day. So it's a very good practice to do. I highly recommend it, and I'll let you know where you can access that from very soon. The other thing with the pranic layer is your environment. Spring does seem to be a sort of season where you get nudged to clear the clutter, to make space, to lighten up, to let the wind blow through your house, open the windows. And what's blocking that flow of energy coming through your house? Is there some things that you no longer need? If you look around, are there things you haven't touched or used in the last couple of years? Is it time to have a clean out? Is it time to move these things on? So that could be in your environment that you live in. It could be the clothes you wear. It could be your pantry. That could be due for a bit of a clean out. It's a great time to do that. As far as the emotional body goes, how do you look after your health? What makes your heart sing? So some self-love, some self-care at this time. And sometimes helping others can really give us a lift and impetus to move into this season of spring, preparing ourselves for the faster paced season of summer. Our mental body will be becoming aware of what state we're carrying around with us and making time each day to sit with ourselves, just to watch the breath, some mindful breathing, meditation, maybe some chanting. The mind is a muscle that we need to work on as much as any other muscle in the body. And we need to take control of the mind and not let the mind take control of us. So on those days when you're feeling a bit lethargic, I don't really want to do that, maybe you can ask, is there a good reason why you don't want to do that? And if not, then do a breathing practice or sit and meditate for 5 minutes and just change that level to move you forward so that you can move on. And then we've got our spiritual practices. So what really takes you inward? It's those things that take you in from the external focus of life to the internal Could be that you have some beautiful spiritual books or readings that you can revisit. It could be a meditation practice. Nature for me, to go and sit in nature and just absorb it and be with it without any gadgets, without anything else to do other than to simply be there. So there's lots we can do, and what I started spring with, when I started September 1st, I put myself on a spring cleanse, and I actually shared this on my Discord channel. So I have a Discord channel called Heart Song Yoga and Holistic Health. It's free to join, and it's a place where I hang out most days. It's a good place if you want to catch up, ask me anything, share something. So I thought I'd put the spring cleanse on there, because then there's one place you can go, and on there I've got the mung bean soup recipe. I've got kitchery recipes, which is if you're doing, let's say, a week fast, where you might do 2 days of soup, you might do 2 days of mung bean soup. Then you might do maybe a different soup, or you might bring in some kitchery, which is usually a rice and a grain mixed together with some vegetables. Very easily digestible food to give your digestive system a cleaning out, a break. So those recipes are all up there. I've also got the Sahita Pranayam. You can print that out with all the breathing ratios. That's on there. I've also got on there tips for seasonal living and how to create a visual image. So, when we start anything, sometimes we do need something to give us a bit of inspiration, because it's why I started that channel, was to give us some inspiration to help each other. So I really encourage you to jump in there, and if you want to do a spring cleanse, it's obviously not too late. We're still in spring. It's never too late to do a bit of a clean out. So jump in there and commit, and just speak, say hi, I'm going to do this, where do I find this, and share your journey, because I think when we share it and we commit to a community of people that are on the same page, it becomes much easier. When you're doing it on your own as a solo, it's easy to get disheartened, and you sort of think, oh, this is really hard, this is too hard, I just want to go down and get my chai latte, I don't want to go without it for another day. The mind takes over sometimes, and we get sort of pulled back into some of those old habits, as though, we have to have that now. That was my experience, and don't mind admitting that my first day of mung bean soup, I didn't have anyone that I was doing it with, and it was really hard. I just thought, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this to myself? But I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did. So to create a visual image, that really helped me, because I looked at those koshas, those layers of our being, our physical, pranic, emotional, mental, and spiritual layers, and I got a couple of pictures to represent each one. So for the physical, I got some pictures of healthy food that I like to eat, and images that support my well-being, and I got an image of me getting up earlier. There was a beautiful image where I got up at sunrise and went up a mountain when I was over east some years ago, and someone caught me on camera with my hands pointing to the sun just as it was coming up. And that reminds me, when I look at that, I know that's why I get up early, because I want to greet the day when the sun comes up, because it makes the biggest difference to me. So I've got a picture of that. I've got a picture of my family as a part of that emotional, what makes my heart sing, connecting with my family over food and celebration and getting together. So I've got an image of that. And then for supporting my mental health, I've got an image of books and learning, because for me, for my personality type, learning brings me alive. So I've got an image of that. And then for the spiritual part, I've got nature. I've got just this beautiful light coming into this picture. So that sort of, when I look at that, I've put that together. I just, on the computer, open up an A4 Word document. I put a shape in there of a heart. I pulled in these pictures, put them in there, printed it off, cut it out, laminate it, and I stuck it on my bathroom mirror. Now, you don't have to do it on the computer, but these days it's pretty easy to do. You could just cut out a heart shape, or any shape, a star. I like to have a shape. It's just nice to have anything other than just a piece of paper stuck on the wall. And then stick some pictures on it. Just start, cutting them out and sticking them on. And put that somewhere where you see it every day, because it's something that inspires you to stick to your goal and remind you of where you're heading. So that's just a little tip. And that sheet with how to do that is also on my spring cleanse. So if you haven't heard of Discord, check it out. Discord was set up as a gaming platform. I've never been a gamer, but I was put onto this platform because it has turned out to be a platform where a lot of community groups are meeting and gathering, and it's free to use, very well designed. So I've got a server there called the Heart Song Yoga and Holistic Health. And then once you jump into my server, you can jump in there and then you'll see there's a whole lot of channels, like they're all channels down the left hand side, and you'll see a channel there, Spring Cleanse. And in that channel is where you'll find all the recipes, tips for seasonal living, and all the things I've been talking about. So I'd love you to jump in there, check it out. You can always find a quick YouTube video on how to navigate around Discord. There's lots and lots of them on there, so I don't need to reinvent the wheel with that. But it is a great place and it's got lots of resources. So I encourage you to share this podcast if it resonated with you, and let's see if we can grow a community to support ourselves, to start living in harmony with nature and to start getting our health back, because it's up to us to take responsibility for our well-being. No one else is going to do it for us. We've got to get off some old ways of thinking, of giving our power away to other organisations or people in regard to our health, and we've got to be proactive and take our power back, and the time to do it is now. So conscious living in alignment with nature. Spring clean your consciousness. That is what this is all about. So please jump in. Let's make this season of spring transformational, and let's get ourselves into some nice healthy places to emerge into a beautiful summer season. I hope that's inspired you. Please share this podcast. I would really like to grow that too. Let me know what you think and what else you might like to hear about in this space. Take care. I'll be back in a month, but meanwhile I hope you'll jump onto Discord and I'll see you there. Bye for now.